So does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up? No.
Yeah, I'd like to
Oh,
talk about
okay.
the work that we're doing at Sunnyside Innovation Laboratories. So we're really moving some stuff forward over there. So, and what I mean by that is we're tomorrow. I'm meeting with my guy who knows AI well, Rich Powers, and we're going to start designing the microgrid that we need for uh, the innovation district. And then we're also going to implement how we need to tie public education into the innovation district and tie it in to make the Sunnyside more resilient and all that kind of stuff. So that's all. I mean, Rod, you and I've talked a lot. Yeah, that book that I just finished by Randy Weingarten, that was an awesome book. Yeah, so there's a lot of things that we're seeing that as in the Sunnyside Innovation Laboratories that we're working on so that we can actually make a positive change for a better future. You know, give people come up with a good plan. People want to get enthusiastic about it, figure out how they can help us by going to a trade school to get certified in whatever they want to be when they grow up, and then help us build the future, and then build the innovation district out of mass timbers. So
So,
So,
structure.
for those of you guys who don't know Pete, he is managing and owner over at the old Standard Fence Lot, which is basically the very far northeast corner of Sunnyside, and it's a fairly large
Yes.
property. And the reason I like to have Pete sort of drop in every once in a while is because his property is critical to the new bridge they're proposing to get over to Fox Island, they call it over there. And so it's also the place where a lot of at least the eastern half of Sunnyside, most of the water and runoff ends up going that way through. Is it Salworth? What is it
Uh,
called?
a thalwag.
Thalweg.
Yeah, it's an underground river that's underneath the northeast corner of our property, and it's not really a river of like you think of a just flowing river. It's just how water goes underneath these channels that are underneath this property and go into the Platte.
Yeah, so it ends
Well,
up
we're
the Platte. And so his property is like a critical thing as far as like runoff goes and access because of that new bridge and so there's a lot going on over there with that particular property that I think has larger ramifications is how we think about the future land use of Sunnyside and what we want it to look like in our community. He's also involved with a lot of the business owners over there and in communication with them. And he mentioned his innovation district, which sort of ties into the near northwest Denver plan. You know, they've got it designated as an innovation district area. It's in some of the language there. I don't know. Maybe that's in Blueprint Denver.
no,
Um,
no,
it's on
it's
the
in the near
NPI.
northwest.
It's
it's
on
Sorry,
what's that?
Katie.
it's on the NPI.
Yeah, okay, in the NPI. So so there's a lot there, and having Pete involved, he hears things that we all may not hear because it's directly related to his property, and so anyway, and Pete, I'd love to
Good
have
to
you
hear.
bring at some point some more presentation stuff, you know, like some things and to show us, and you
Yeah,
know, just so everybody's kind of aware what you got going on, and if they're
Right.
interested, they could reach out to you.
That's what I'm interested in too. We've kind of
yeah,
heard about you working with a bunch of other property owners there, but we have not seen anything about, well, what
yeah.
exactly is that vision?
Katie hasn't reached out to you, Katie Mitchell.
No.
No.
She's the president of the Sunnyside Business Alliance,
Yep.
and
We have not
that's
heard
what
from her.
we're doing. And John Gagnon is a good friend of mine, and he's the architect who designed the DIA tent. He spent 8 or 9 years of his life doing that. but he's helping me do all the design stuff. And what we've been working on is what net zero actually looks like. He and I have been doing that for a couple decades. And then when I met Rod, Rod's of the same thinking. And so we're just trying to figure out how to invent a better future. So, because we
So,
have the
and
opportunity to do it.
if obviously reach out to Pete if anybody's interested in learning more about it. Some of this stuff is not directly related to sort of like our land use and this committee's sort of purview, but because there's sort of tangential elements of it of community building and what we want our neighborhood to look like and what businesses we have in our neighborhood, that's where I felt it tied in. And there's a little crossover there.
Well, we want to give people opportunity to, have a better future. And then there's a lot of things that we need to get done. I haven't finished writing out what our main objectives are, but we need to tie it into public school. And like you guys were talking about that school being a daycare, we need to start it from daycare all the way through so that kids have an opportunity to pick what they want to be when they grow up, and they can do it. So.
Well, in that school you were talking about, Troop D is pretty close there, into the area we're talking about where Pete is.
Now, well, Remington, the problem with Remington is Remington does not have air conditioning. And as far
Yeah.
as reuse capacity, a lot more investment needed over there. And I think there's other plans going on for that school. But anyway, I do see we have a couple more people. Okay, Melissa's also on, and we've got Rachel and Macy. Rachel, Macy, I think you guys are from Yates. Are you guys the only two folks from Yates, or are we waiting for anybody else?
Might just be the two of
I'm
us.
not hearing
Okay.
anybody.
Yep, and this is Macy. Yep, but okay, that's fine. I want to make sure we can, jump over to you guys first before we get to all of our other updates and be conscientious of your time so you guys can drop off. Rod, would you mind if because we haven't really started much of our else of our updates, that we move over to letting Yates present and
Yeah, let's go ahead and jump to them and we can do that. And then if that's okay, Melissa, and then we can do you next. All right, perfect. So let's see. Do you guys need the ability to share screen, or is this a verbal presentation, or what do we got going? Can anybody
So
hear me?
Rachel's
Oh,
trying to
good.
solve audio.
Oh, okay.
okay.
So she's going to dial in really quickly. She's got a little bit hiccup, but my name's Macy Lau. Rachel and I work together. So really quickly, I don't know, have you guys been told anything about what we're doing so far?
No.
So
No.
really quickly, my husband and I have signed a lease on the Yates Theater in Berkeley. And oh, oh my
I'm
God, there's two of her. Run
right.
away. No, that's
I'm
unbeatable
close
at this point, guys.
close to
Getting
my computer. I don't know what my sorry guys, I don't know what my laptop has been doing, switching between Teams and Zoom and Google. It's been glitching. So my apologies and
Totally
thank you so
understand.
I'll
Every
present.
time I get on a call, every time. So
so
I will
thank you.
present. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us on. As Macy said, my name is Rachel Marion. I'm a consultant helping with navigating a bit of this process. And as somebody who um, I sit on Denver's planning board, and so had that earlier tonight, and also sit on my RNO board. So I just appreciate the time you all are giving to your neighborhood to make it a better place. And I know the time commitment that takes. So thank you
I
all.
have to ask, what's the R&O board that you're on?
I'm on Cole
Okay.
neighborhood.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
So
Um,
really quick, Rach, can you describe where the Yates Theater is? It's not in Sunnyside, so people are going to be
correct.
going, well, why are we talking about that? But just tell
Yeah,
where it is and sort of why you're wanting to reach out.
sure, absolutely. So the Yates Theater is at 44th and Yates. And somebody asked if we would like sharing capabilities. Macy, I'll let you screen share since I'm on my phone now. But the reason we're reaching out, just because, the neighborhoods of Berkeley and Sunnyside are so, deeply connected, very close to one another. And I mean, candidly, we think we're pretty excited about what Macy and her husband Kyle are contemplating, and hope to generate a bit of interest from you all. We both long term, and then also we're hosting an open house inside the theater on November 13th. So would love to just see folks who are interested, and hopefully get a few future patrons out of you all as well.
You
So
share the
that's
time. What's the time for 11:13? What can people expect? And we will put that out. Are you guys putting it out anywhere else on social media or anything?
Yep. So we have, and so Melissa and Councilman Sandoval's office will be putting it in their newsletter.
Yeah.
We have, I thought, sent over material to you all
Okay.
to distribute, however, but we have a flyer. It's going out, Historic Berkeley Regis.
It's in the
Um,
chat.
Yep, I see it.
and we also sent postcards to everybody, physical postcards within a certain distance of folks who live nearby. We mailed postcards. Um, so a bit of background about this property. If you've never been in it, it's really cool. So it opened in 1927 as a silent film theater, and it was purpose built as a 500 seat silent film theater, and it operated as a theater for a significant period of time, up until like 1960s, 70s, at which point the theater closed, and it's had a couple of kind of oddball uses between then and now, but it has actually sat vacant for a few decades. And fast forward, Macy and Kyle are originally from Brooklyn, or moved here from Brooklyn, and had a dream of opening actually a film themed bar. And their broker said, would you be willing to pivot your business concept a little bit? Because there's this really cool space. And if you're willing to, instead of taking your passion for film and opening a film themed bar, would you be interested in restoring this movie theater? And I can let Macy talk to this, but it was basically the minute she walked in to this space, it was all right, I'm immediately pivoting the business idea and let's restore this theater. So essentially, what do sorry, did you have something, Macy?
No, I just had to cough. Sorry.
Oh. So there is a provision in the Denver zoning code that it's provision 11.4.2 for those of us zoning nerds, that limits seating capacity for arts and entertainment indoor uses in certain zone districts, which this is one of those zone districts, UMX2. So it limits seating capacity. And sort of the weird, again, nerdy thing about that is seating capacity is not defined in the zoning code. Normally, there's a lot of mentions of seating. There's also mention of occupancy, but this is the only place in the zoning code where seating capacity is a limitation. And what that means for this theater, that has languished for decades, is that because it's roughly 6,000 square feet, it would, by definition, if you tried to restore it to any sort of indoor arts and entertainment use, like a theater that it was originally designed to be, it would be in violation of this 11.4.2 provision that caps you at seating capacity of 100 seats. And so we are part of our ask of the city, and part of why we're having these neighborhood conversations is to ask for a variance from the Board of Adjustment to allow for 310 seats in that theater space that, like I said, was initially designed for 500 or built for 500. And then the other ask we plan to have of the city is for a liquor license to be able to serve drinks, get a glass of wine, get a cocktail while you are watching your movie. The other thing I should mention is the theater is intended for second run screenings. And so think classic movies that may be themed around a specific director or tied to something happening, you know, seasonally or whatnot. These wouldn't be the same sort of, you know, United Artists, Regal Cinemas first run screenings. So we don't have like a whole presentation, but we do have a few slides if Macy's able to share her screen.
And can you tell us which liquor license you're applying for? Is this hotel restaurant or is this tavern or something else?
That's a great question. That we It is a great question that we're still in conversations with the city. Basically, we're waiting to see what happens with this variance with the Board of Adjustment,
Okay.
because if we don't get the Board of Adjustment
Right.
approval, then the liquor license doesn't matter, obviously, and you have to have zoning approvals to even start going through liquor licensing. So if you can see here, it's on the same block if you're familiar with Queen City Coffee on the corner. It's on that block, and I had been there on that block a number of times. I didn't even realize it was a former theater, because from the outside, you wouldn't necessarily know that, which is also kind of fun. I encourage folks to come to the open house because it's pretty cool inside. So here's what we've submitted to the city in terms of seating. As you can see, so the bottom of your screen is 44th Street, and the left side of your screen is Yates. So the front of the house would open into sort of a ticketing and bar area. And we have some initial renderings we can show in a second. And then you can see the theater seating going, I guess that's north from there.
Yeah, this is north.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Macy, if you want to switch the next slide. So it feels like I said, if you get a chance to come into the theater, it's pretty cool. It does have a historic feel, and Macy and Kyle's desire is to bring it, you know, maintain sort of that vintage Art Deco-y classic theater vibe. The goal is not to bring it, you know, like I said, the goal is not a United Artists vibe. It's a classic 1940s Art Deco movie theater style. If you want to go to the next one, just to pick up more of the vibe. So that's the vibe. The other thing that we also wanted to mention that's an exciting opportunity is that Macy and Kyle have already been in touch with some of the local schools because there's, in addition to having a space where a projector and screen can show movies, there's also a physical stage. So there's the opportunity for local schools to do high school theater performances, high school musical productions, in sort of a community partnership with the theater, in particularly for schools that don't have those facilities, which is a lot of Denver schools, those facilities themselves. So that's a just high level overview, but would love to answer questions folks may have.
So I have one thing really quick on your occupancy that you're talking about for the seating.
Yep.
Those definitions are going to be in the building code, not the zoning code, and as far as determining occupancy loads and types of seating, so they'll have those definitions in there.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah. So the definition, yeah. So the definition of seating capacity is 1 per 7 square feet, which means definitionally that's, sorry, I skipped over that piece. Yes. So in the building code, I skipped over that piece. In the building code, seating capacity is defined as
for
1 per 7 square feet. So at
and that's
6,000,
for the fixed bench seating.
that is just like the definition for a building in terms of seating capacity. So so the 11.4.2 says that uses arts, entertainment, and indoor recreation uses within UMX2 can have a seating capacity of no more than 100.
Okay.
And so that's uh interestingly, there's at least three other spaces in Denver, the Holiday Theater, Savoy over in Curtis Park, and Ballyhoo, all of whom should also be subject to this restriction. And I think zoning just didn't catch it. um,
Wow.
because none of them received a variance from the BOA, but which is also sort of part of our conversation with the BOA is consistent applicability of the zoning code across our city. But we actually caught it on our end. The interesting thing too is it's only seating capacity. So if you had, for example, and it's only for arts, entertainment, and indoor recreation uses. So if instead you were to open a restaurant or a bar, that the seating capacity limitation would no longer exist. So you could have a standing room bar of 700 people. So it's sort of, it's sort of a wonky, strange provision that came over from Chapter 59 and was adapted from B1 zoning into the new code in 2010. And I can't find an example of when it's actually ever been like called out or that prohibition has been triggered.
Now, but and I know that this happens all the time. It's one reviewer will catch something and one
Right.
reviewer won't. Um, have they described to you any way to rectify this? Is it an administrative variance? Is it a full-on,
No.
No.
public hearing variant?
Yeah, because it's part of a use limitation. Use limitations can't be administratively, the zoning administrator can't adjudicate on anything related to use limitations. So it has to go to a board of adjustment public hearing.
Okay. I
So Rachel, I've got a couple of questions. The
Yep.
important thing, I think, for us, for me, right now is the timing. When are you hoping to take this in front of Board of Adjustments? And have you already put the application in? I mean, we haven't seen anything come through, but we've had a glitch in our notification system, and Rod and I haven't been seeing notifications for most of this year. So has this already been applied for?
So, the way, and I apologize if everybody's familiar with this, but basically how it works is you submit something to community planning and development. They come back, they say this violates the existing zoning, which so that has happened. So we had a pre-app meeting
Yep.
with CPD and then with one of the members of CPD who specifically works on zoning variances. Um, in terms of timing, candidly, it depends a lot on feedback. In this conversation, feedback from Brun and Historic Berkeley Regis, feedback from the community in the November 13th meeting. I think once folks hear sort of, we had a handful of folks from Brun's Land Use, like your equivalent, come out to the theater along with some folks from Historic Berkeley Regis. And when you understand that it could be a 700 person standing room bar, and when you hear sort of Kyle and Macy's vision for restoring it back to a theater, folks seem to be pretty excited about that. I think there's still things that we need to negotiate through a good neighbor agreement in terms of, I think, parking and noise and some of the contingencies with the liquor license, which, we've talked about limiting it to this use. So if or this business, so if the business changed,
Wow.
the variance would go away and the liquor license would go away. So we're still having those conversations, but in terms of timing, it'll depend a lot on what the response from the community is to the proposal.
That leads me, what type of outreach have you done to the immediate neighbors surrounding the space,
The
and what
postcards.
types of feedback are you getting? We have this discussions all the time in this group of whether the city really even listens to us or whether they put more weight in the feedback and the approval or denial letters they get from immediate neighbors. Sometimes we feel like that has more weight and more bearing. So I'm curious to see what, we can all say, oh, we love it, but we're not even in the same neighborhood. We're
We're
not
not impacted the same
do
way.
not impact the way the immediate neighbors would be.
And so just to kind of clarify why I was asking on timing, at least for us, and I don't know how other RNOs function, but when we're asked for a support letter, we we take this recording, your presentation, we share it out to the community with a survey form. And all of that stuff may take 2, 3 weeks. We usually allow at least 2 weeks open for people to, this is going to be on our YouTube channel, as well, this recording. So it takes us, say, 3 weeks to be able to turn around and even say, this is what we heard back. So that's why it's kind of important. Now, the secondary piece being, and I was hoping maybe Melissa weighs in on this, is would BOA care at all if someone 2 miles away, likes it or doesn't like it, and whether it's even worth, our effort, if it's not going to help you guys, whether it's worth anybody's effort to do this. But certainly if, for good faith, and also I look at these types of things as a regional amenity. But again, it's a lot easier for me to say, yeah, 100% when I don't live next door. And we would put those kinds of things in our letter, right?
Right.
But I want to make sure that it's going to be of value to you. So maybe Melissa, weigh in, and then you, on terms of 3 week timing as the earliest, we can turn around and get a letter to you to take to BOA, and that doesn't include their time frame of having to receive any such information. So I want to make sure that that is all aligned before we go through the work.
Yep, that's super helpful. So to answer, first off, I'm already taking notes. You guys are far more tech savvy. I love that you are recording all these meetings. I love that you send it out to your community for response. That's kudos to whoever got that going for you all, because it's hard to get all of the community engaged, and all of us sitting here in a meeting on a weeknight is like a niche group of people who are able and willing to do that. And so that's super cool that you guys do that. In terms of timing, 3 weeks is not an issue.
Okay, great.
So we still have to, like, you have to formally apply to the Board of Adjustment, and then that starts essentially sort of like the shortest end of 4 week shot clock
Okay.
before the BOA hearing, and we will not apply for BOA approval or like submit that application to the Board of Adjustment until after the community meeting, because if that goes awry, we have more work to do.
Yep.
If that goes great, I think we continue having the work, but we have less concern if the community meeting goes well. So in terms of the immediate neighbors, they will receive a postcard, both with an invitation to the open house, as well as a QR code to, if they are unable to come to the open house or don't want to come to the open house, but still want to provide feedback. We have an online form by which they can provide feedback that gives kind of an overview of the proposal and allows them to give feedback. It's like, I don't know, 3 or 4 questions. So super succinct, but allows them to give feedback that way.
Yep.
We also intend to immediately outreach to, there have been various proposals at this location. And so that we have some of the contact information of the immediate neighbors and are doing direct outreach that way. To your question about, does a letter make a difference? Like I said earlier, I sit on Denver's planning board, and I would say, yes, letters make a difference. I think all of the sort of governing bodies, whether it's city council or planning board or board of adjustment, take each of those. If every single immediate neighbor, was writing letters of opposition, that, it's not like your letter of support would override that. But I think
Right.
if, if we get to a place where most neighbors are supportive, I think part of it shows, hey, they took the time to go and sit down with Sunnyside neighbors. And so that shows us, BOA, that they were doing their outreach.
Yep. No, 100%. During the open house, are you also collecting survey information there from people who attend? I'm just curious because I mean, my goal, if and I'll ask our standing committee, if we should move forward with this, but my goal would be to share the information on the open house and then also share our survey and kind of ask people to go to this open house, then take the survey and let us know whether they feel that as a community we should support this through a letter. So but I was curious if you're collecting those data points from people when they show up as well. So just
Yep.
logistics, how many time are we going to ask them
Yep.
questions?
Yeah, so we will be collecting input in a couple of ways. The QR code will be there, so if folks if public participation is not your jam, you can walk through, kind of hear the spiel, and take the QR code and fill it out on your phone later. We'll also be collecting sort of sticky note feedback of, what are your top concerns about this? And then the full team, from architects to Macy and Kyle to myself, will all be there, collecting sort of, I guess, oral feedback in terms of, and all of that will be collated into sort of one data set of, okay, here are the main points of concern we heard. Here are the questions that kept coming up. So, and we've already started receiving, I think, last time we had a conversation, I don't know if we've gotten more, Macy, but we've already had about 50 survey
Yeah,
responses.
we're above 50. The way that I set up that type form is pretty like simplistic, but because it's multiple choice, it makes it simple. Like you can answer based on the neighborhood, it has requirements, and in terms of like, that's basically my background. So in terms of like what people's concerns are, there's a multiple choice, but it also allows people to fill in things, and it's all already aggregating in a CSV form.
Wonderful.
And it also fills in if they want to add in additional questions, as well as all their contact info. So then I have a trigger point follow up for any like follow up things afterwards.
And my last question is really for the benefit of the people who may be listening to this afterwards, because they may have this question. Are you guys um, putting in sound insulation, or is it very insulated now because it's, made out of material from a long time ago, which could have been more insulated? So what's your
So that's
plan on sound insulation?
so that's all being discussed with the architects. That's part of like the sound rating engineering
Okay.
work. So yeah, that's all being evaluated, but that
And
will definitely be in part of the work that's being done with the theater right now.
And because, because it is a movie theater, it's in Macy and Kyle's interest to have it highly insulated because you don't want fire truck sound or traffic noise coming in as you're watching a movie. And so that also, it works both ways. It keeps it quiet for the neighborhood and also quiet from the neighborhood noise if you're in there watching a film.
Absolutely. Rod and I've talked a lot. Anyone else on the call have any specific questions for Macy and Rachel from what you guys have heard, or even any other comments or input on kind of our process of collecting feedback from community before we write a letter of support?
I'm kind of curious. You mentioned a little bit about trying to figure out parking plans and things like that, but have you thought more broadly about transportation into this new event center, 300 people coming in here and how they're going to get there?
Yeah, so we have thought about it. Under one of the previous concepts, there is a partnership with rideshare. It's also along an RTD corridor, so bus is possible. We, I don't know who's been. It's Denver Film Week, so maybe folks have been to the theater more recently than potentially typically. But for anybody has been to a theater recently, I mean, on any given night, I mean, it will have capacity for 300, and I think part of that is the opportunity when Sundance comes, can you shuttle
Yep.
folks for a screening to view a screening at this theater? But on a given Wednesday night, the likelihood of 300 people being in there, despite there being 300 seats, I would say would be atypical. But that being said, we've spoken to Walmart about the opportunity of doing like a valet shuttle situation. So they allow they would allow sort of a lease of a certain amount of spaces to be able to also do valet opportunity, particularly on those nights where there is an event where you're going to, sell out the theater.
Oh, that's great.
Have you
Lexi,
thought
you have your
about?
hand up.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Matthew, are you done? Did
Oh,
you-
sorry, Matthew.
Yeah, I was just going to follow up if you've done any thinking about like active mobility transport, biking and things like that to encourage people to not use cars coming in there. I know 45th and Wolf are both on the bike streets, quiet street network, so it seems like you're kind of primed to have people easily biking in there.
So more of
Yep.
parking, bike.
Yes.
lock
Yep.
up.
Yep. So we actually, that question came up when we had some of the folks come tour the space last week, and we're working on where we could add. There's some bike parking currently along Yates, but there is opportunity right now. There's like a pretty substantial unpaved portion behind the commercial building. And so we've been having conversations about what portion of that is bike parking, is car parking, where else could you create significant opportunity for bike infrastructure. So yes, we are, that has definitely come up, and I agree with you. It seems like bike commuters would very pro bike neighborhood.
Yeah, great. Glad you're thinking about it.
All right, Lexi.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Hi. It's super exciting. I toured this years ago when it was on the market before any of the other spaces were built out. It was a total mess. And I know there was a concept back then, and I'm just honestly curious. I feel like I remember a lot of neighborhood pushback, and I don't remember what the concept was for the space back then. Maybe it was a theater and it was more concerning. Not movie theater, but like a music venue. Do you guys do you
Yep.
have any context on that? I remember that being a big thing, and obviously it did go forward. So I was just curious.
Yeah,
I mean, that's, yeah, go ahead.
the previous concept was a live music venue.
Oh.
And so there were a number of concerns. It actually did receive its approvals in the end. The concept didn't move forward because COVID hit, and that was then not a great time to open a live music venue. But ultimately they did sign a good neighbor agreement
Okay.
with the neighbors. But the pushback there was, I mean, like I said, it was like capacity of 750 people at a live music venue. There were deep concerns around noise, around that many people in the neighborhood, around trash, around like um, a bunch of intoxicated people dumping into the street at 2:30 in the morning. And so I think, we've talked to some of the folks that had been sort of leading the charge with concerns last go around, and they seem, at least from these initial conversations, to be really excited about this use, as
Good.
opposed to other potential proposed uses.
Good. I'm glad to hear. I just knew there was I remember neighborhood pushback, but I don't think I knew they had signed an agreement. So that's good to know. I'm excited. Thanks.
Have you talked to the folks over at Ballyhoo at all about their process that they've been through?
Um, we have not, but Ballyhoo is also, so Ballyhoo falls into that category of they should be subject to this limitation, and they were granted a zoning permit like nobody caught it.
Well, I was just wondering if they're actually classified as that entertainment because they
They
do have food and
they are.
and
Yeah.
beverages, so I don't know if they're classified as an eating and drinking establishment rather than an entertainment space. So they wiggled around it by the way they classified themselves.
No,
Maybe.
they're
Perhaps.
yeah,
That's just me guessing.
their zoning permit classifies them as a arts, entertainment, and indoor recreation use.
Oh, okay. So they did sneak through underneath there. Okay.
All right. So just want to wrap this up unless there's any additional information, Macy, Rachel, that you want to share with us before I kind of maybe just summarize about what our next steps are.
No, I think that's it. We really sincerely appreciate the time, and appreciate sort of the overview of your process and your time frame. Um, on that, if anybody goes to that QR code, in addition to the survey and opportunity for public feedback, there is also my contact information, Macy's contact information. So if folks want to, we're open to folks coming to the open house, or if somebody wants an individual one-on-one Zoom conversation or coffee or whatever else, we're open and available for any of that. And so I guess that would be my last piece. Thank you all for the thoughtful questions and for time this evening.
Right, thanks. So
Thank you.
for our team, I'm sorry, was there somebody else?
No, I was saying
Okay,
thank you.
so for our team, this is kind of the plan, and let me know if I've captured everything or forgotten something. I'm going to take their a promo flyer and put it on our socials immediately, just so people know that this is happening. And then I'm going to work on, after this meeting and this recording and all that, work on a very quick survey with some kind of key points about why, you are going to BOA. Because right now, I think it's just a BOA question. We don't even need to talk about liquor license. This is really a BOA issue. So we'll stick with that. And Rachel, if I have any specific questions that are going to be very specific to terms that would be on the application itself, I'll reach out. But
Okay.
try to, put in as much information so people can go back and I'll let you look at the language, the summary of, what you're doing, what you're asking for. So I'll let you look at that before, and then we'll send that out on our platforms, on our socials, our Insta, and probably to our 1,000, not probably for sure, our 1,000 newsletter folks. So I'm hoping to maybe get that out within a week. And then give everybody a couple of weeks, and that'll kind of align a little bit with where you guys are with the open house. So that's kind of what we're gonna do, and then we'll go from there based on what we hear and kind of summarize what the response was and things like that. But again, sounds really great to me. I'm personally excited about it, but I don't live next door.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all again for your time. And again, feel free at any point to reach out to either Macy or myself if you're hearing anything or confusion or questions from the community, or if you yourselves have any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
See you at
Thank
the
you.
open house.
Thanks.
Take care.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. And if anybody has any other questions, go ahead and drop them to Troop DRI. We'll make sure we reach out and get them answered and answers back to you.
Okay, so now we can go to
Let's
Melissa.
jump into Melissa's and move right along, because what was going to be a short meeting is getting quite full.
Yeah, that's because you and I yap too much.
All right. Hi, everyone. So we just have a few updates this month again. Oh, bear with me. We have new software. So we have the Mullen Residences. So the former Little Sisters of the Poor there on 29th Avenue, that's owned by the Archdiocese, is being redeveloped into Mullen Residences at the Highlands, a proposed senior living community that they hope to open in 2029, and they're actually taking reservations for it now.
Wow.
So they're going to be holding an informational meeting that is kind of a requirement for them, a zoning requirement for their residential uses. It is a campus zoning, so they have to do this as part of that. So that'll be on Thursday, November 13th from 6 to 7 over at the Highland Community Center, 28th and Osceola.
Same time as the open
Same
house.
night.
Same
Yeah,
time
it
as
is.
the open house.
It is. So we will be splitting our time. I will be here, and there's a chance that the councilwoman will try and make it to the Yates Theater.
She was older.
And so just as you guys found out in that last presentation, so they are looking to revitalize that theater. They're going to need a zoning variance, and eventually, if that goes through, a liquor license. So they're asking people to come, take a look, take their survey, and share their thoughts. We have something that we're really excited to bring forward. We have the West 32nd Avenue rezoning. So we're bringing this forth on behalf of community in West Highland. So this will rezone West 32nd Avenue from Julian, essentially Three Dogs Tavern, so slightly on the other side of Julian, but to Perry Street. It's going to be proactively preserving the commercial character of West 32nd Avenue through the application of the Active Centers and Corridors Design Overlay, or otherwise known as DO8, no different than what we did along 44th Avenue, right, as part of the Near Northwest Area Plan. So this would make a few changes. So for the area zoned UMS3, which is essentially east, so Mead east to Julian, those are already all zoned 3 stories, UMS3, and that's just going to add that overlay, the DO8. For Mead to Perry is UMX2, so this is going to upzone that to UMX3 to apply the DO8. You cannot, the DO8 has no value under 3 stories. It cannot require that active ground floor use. You must upzone to be able to preserve that commercial space. And then there is that bank there that we are also going to be dragging into the modern age, and they'll be upzoned to UMX3 DO8. So, this area is unusual, especially when you get west of Mead. There are 2 different landmark districts that touch 32nd Avenue. So you have the Wolf Historic District, and you have the Packard Hill Historic District, which is one of the most recent ones. And so we have cut those out at the request of Landmark, do not include those in this rezoning, because it can really mess with landmark standards. So with the exception of those landmark properties or landmark historic district properties, everything in that area will be rezoned. And we are tentatively scheduled for a planning board public hearing on December 17th. If you have questions on that, please reach out to me directly, and I'm happy to chat with anyone about that. We have the West 29th Avenue evaluation. Anyone that's traveled on that corridor, Dottie wants to hear from you. So the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure, which we affectionately call Dottie, they implemented safe and slow street design between Sheridan Boulevard and Zuni. That meant that they did traffic calming improvements such as speed reductions, the cushions, or otherwise known as speed bumps along the corridor, and they did some pavement markings. They did a rapid rectangular flashing beacon, crosswalks, etc. So now they're asking basically, how do you feel? If you traveled that in the last 2 months, they want to hear from you. Please share your feedback on that with their survey through the end of the month. Unlocking housing choices, I'm sure Rod will discuss.
Yep.
That continues to move forward here. They have split it into a two-phase project where they will have an initial phase that they hope to get through by next year, and then the later phase into 2029, I want to say. So we've already had a couple of meetings. We'll have another one here in a week. So there's some links on how you can stay informed on that process. We certainly, they will start to go to public feedback next year. And so we really want to make sure people are aware of it and have a chance to kind of comment on that. Lastly, we have the Resilient Landscapes program. So that is a project which is continuing on. Oops. You can get some project updates. You can share your local landscapes. You can kind of learn more about what it's trying to do, which is update Denver's codes, rules, regulations, and policies to be more responsive to our changing climate. So, and then finally, we have the Sheridan Corridor Safety Study, just some information on that for everyone. Same as last month, but just as a reminder that they have come up with some recommendations. Public hearings, the only thing we have coming up is Monday, November 17th. Downtown area plan will be heard at council. Other than that, nothing until December when we have Regis University. So that is all I have.
Great.
Does anyone have any questions?
Thanks, Melissa. Yeah, are there any questions?
Just have you sent that to Rod or myself to?
No,
Okay,
but I
just when
will.
you get a chance. Because that 29th Avenue study might be worth sharing, with folks who are, bikers and such. So want to make sure I have that information and link.
Yeah, I'll get that to you tonight.
Thank you.
All righty. Thanks, Melissa. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Okay, well, moving on. Was there anything else on your agenda? Sorry, I've got multiple screens going here that you wanted to go over, or I could give an update, a little bit of an overview on the updating housing choices.
You know what? Can I just do the Colombian first? Because I think that's just going to be a 30-second or a minute. So thanks, Joey. So Colombian, the future of Colombian, they had a meeting, public meeting while I was away and Rod didn't join, either, wasn't able to join. Did anybody else, Matthew, were you able to go? Was anybody else on this call able to go to that meeting? Okay. So my understanding is that they were sharing what they had heard from community through the surveys that they had done earlier in the year and kind of what the top priorities were. And one of the highest priority and a need, also kind of verified in data, besides just a survey, was that there was need for childcare, like the newborn to 3. So prior to Head Start and those programs. So that was something that they're moving forward at Columbian, and I believe they're going to be looking for partners, and the partners are the people who are actually going to run the daycare. So probably leasing a space from them. So that's the plan. So there is reuse of Colombian. That's the news story here. That's the update. What I would like to keep discussing and seeing if there's possibility is because I think that's underutilization of space, right? So are there other uses if that models it does work out? Can then it be opened up to more use of an existing space and a building? So I think there's a possibility of that. I've had a couple of conversations with Dr. Marrero about this as well, but nothing to share or nothing concrete. Just that we may, if and when the time comes, we could work through community to come up with other additional uses, not instead of, but additional uses, if that opportunity is going to be available. So that's the Colombian update. We do not know what's happening with Remington. It used to be the what was it called now? The school that moved. the charter school. I've
Oh,
got Strive
Right.
Prep. Yep,
oh,
Strive Prep. But my understanding is that that building, because it does not have AC and has a lot more construction issues, structural issues, was not a good candidate to just reuse right away, whereas Columbian was. So that was one of the, things that they went through. But at this point, we don't know what they're going to do with it, and it'll be something that, we're gonna have to ask or have them come back to us with. I have heard some things like potentially redeveloping that, and either leasing or sound like possibly selling. I'm not sure, but it could be something else completely over there, something maybe sports focused, which is kind of interesting. But nothing set in stone there. So that's all we know
Well,
about the schools right now.
and one of the other challenges, Trupti, about that school over there was that part of that, what we all sort of see as one contiguous is is
Yep.
parks and Denver Parks and Rec. So it's not just dealing with DPS.
Right. It's yeah, Parks and Rec has a piece of that park and the school has the other piece. So
Yeah,
they
so
can't just
it's
take it all. But anyway, so more to come on that. We'll just kind of follow those decisions and bring that information to you. I don't,
Um,
oh, there was
Matthew.
the
You had
sidewalk.
your sorry, Matthew had his finger up. If you're done, Trupti.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to express interest in being involved if there's any more conversations around Columbia. And I know that there's a lot of opportunity in that space. So if there's any conversations to be had around that, I'd be happy to join them.
Okay, that sounds good. And I think I also had like the sidewalk program, the 311 sidewalk program that we're going to be doing with our block captains. And I guess, it'd be great if this group and our board kind of start, but we are going to move forward with using our Sunny 311 account. It's kind of a pilot, and we are going to be reporting all sidewalk repair issues that we see. While the larger city sidewalk project and program get deployed, or actually the planning, the goals are taking, the 5-year goals are being developed, they are doing the fixes. So the broken, the cracked, the 1 inch gaps, the 1 inch, balance, anything mobility, issues, biking, rolling, sorry, walking, rolling, they can all be reported. So we're going to be using the 311 and our block captains and anybody who wants to help us report these issues. And this is just something that we can we can do, and the city is actually going and fixing these things because mostly that they're collecting money, and if they don't start showing that they're using this money or doing nothing with it or waiting until, they have their 5-year plan to start deploying, people are going to have their pitchforks out. So they are making, these small investments to fix these issues. So it is worthwhile for us to go report them. So I've got some work to do on that, but I'll be looking to all of you guys, when you're walking around, report these things. That's kind of the 311 there. Um,
Is I have a question. So
yeah.
the 311, so is it is it by picture or just like calling them and telling them where
Well,
or
so what we have is a specific pilot program, and this
Mhm.
one is kind of through invitation only. What we've done is create a Sunnyside 311 account. Like, otherwise you report it as yourself. But
Okay.
Sunnyside, and we have a block captain program. We're also getting a small grant for this, is that we're going to deploy like our 40 something block captains, and we're going to use that Sunny account. We're not, and it's only going to be for the
Mhm.
sidewalks. It's not going to be for trash. It's not going to be for your neighbor's
Mhm.
tree. It's going to be sidewalk repair,
Mhm.
specifically obstruction and repair. So right now, it's only based on people who are like, yeah, I want to be part of your block captain and be part of this work, because we're going to be then tracking this data. So we also want to make sure that there isn't just any other complaint in
Mhm.
there. It's very specific to just sidewalk program.
Will Denver like reimburse like I guess the account or no? I was trying to figure out where
No,
that
so
might
no,
have.
the
Yeah.
account is just a reporting. So basically,
Oh, okay,
now I
okay,
go to
okay,
311, I'm reporting it as myself.
okay.
What we're going to be doing is reporting this as our R&O. So
Got
this
it.
is an R&O effort that we're
Okay.
doing as a pilot program. But again, it kind of ties into how we deploy our people collateral, right? The block
Mhm.
captains to bring resources and improvements in the neighborhood. So that's kind of the reason why we have this a specific
Yeah.
311 account. Anybody all the time can go ahead and report everything that is reportable today. This is just,
Yeah.
the work
Yeah.
associated with the effort we put in is going to be reported in the SUNY 311 account. Lexi,
Yeah.
So what's the best way for us to do that?
that's going to be through me. So there's a tutorial, and I'm kind of working on the tutorial because you have to go into the system. You could obviously do it online, but you're going to be logging in with a user ID that is the 311. But then your specific account, your email is going to be in there. So there's some instructions. So that's something I have to deploy. And we're going to kind of test it with a smaller group to see like how much work is it. And there's some like small rules, like there might be 4 repairs on that same block. That's 4 separate things that you would have to, which is the way they do it. Unfortunately, I wish you could just say, hey, there's 4 things on this account. Each is an incident. So it's those kinds of things that we kind of want to work through to see how tedious it is and things like that. And I've got to create a tutorial and some documentation and some, video, but that's kind of what we're going to be deploying. And it'll be going on till, mid next year. We'll just continue doing it and see, and then track how many repairs actually get done. How long did it take? That's kind of what, the tracking part of, we'll be able to get a report on this account from the city.
I'm totally interested in helping you create that,
Excellent.
and whatever videos or types of repairs or how to categorize it.
Oh
I'll
my
be,
God. Okay. I'm reaching out to you. I have your
yeah.
contact information. You're on the team.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. All right. Well, let's see. I think the only thing left is I wanted to give a quick update for the unlocking housing choices. They like as Melissa was saying that they've kind of pushed out their time frame and the amount of stuff that they're going to get done in this phase 1 and phase 2 now. All it had to do with budget cuts and resources and their ability, not necessarily the people we work with, like that in the committee that are there because they're the same people that were there before all the cuts, but it's the behind the scenes people and the resources that they have. They're just struggling to move people around. Because a lot of these people still have their regular jobs that they were doing, and then these are sort of special projects. So they've changed that sort of stuff. And a lot of this stuff that they're doing now is all part just discussions, and really they're using the committee as sort of a feedback and sort of to get sort of ideas. And they're all people that are members of RNOs or contractors or people that are just interested in their neighborhoods. And so that's the group that they've got. And we basically what they're focusing on is how to get higher density in the city on single family and 2 unit lots in particular. And what we're talking about is not large multifamily projects. It's the 4 to 9 unit sort of ideal that you
Oh, up to
see in like
9.
the missing middle, I guess they call it. Trying to provide that accessible, affordable. It's not affordable necessarily, but accessible, I guess, housing. Uh, and the discussions are all very high level at this point, and we're discussing sort of like the carrot and the stick type things that we all talk about in zoning for how do we encourage developers to want to build these type of things? What are the ramifications? And this will be some of the discussion that we get into a little later is what are the ramifications with the building codes? I mean, a lot of this stuff will contradict quite a bit of zoning. If you were able to subdivide your house up into 4 units, um, what does that look like from a fire protective standpoint? Or, so, and then current zoning doesn't allow for like multiple families to live within the same dwelling, enclosure. So there's going to be a lot that changes. And they're talking about things where if the properties are, within a certain percentage of the whatever, what is the base rate, for affordability. Like if you had like a set rental rate that you couldn't exceed, you could build more units at that, but will that encourage developers to bring that type of product to the market? Also, what they're discussing is ways that they can use sort of the massing in the form to encourage the preservation of existing structures. So a lot of the conversations are around adding on to existing buildings, splitting existing buildings, but keeping the structure. Like, what are all the ramifications of that? Now, none of those have come to any decisions or anything. They're just really gathering information at this point. And it's definitely going to be a long process because I think you're going to have so many different interested parties in how it'll impact them, like from a developer to a homeowner and those sort of things. But the gist of it, I mean, I'm on board with it. I really enjoy being part of it because it is a lot of the conversations around preserving, you know, our neighborhood, infrastructure and our community and staying within context of those smaller masses and more human scale forms, over the big 12-story, multifamily type developments that you're seeing just take over entire blocks. So I think it's an interesting concept. I think it's a big, steep uphill battle to push this through in Denver in particular. There are, people have cited other cities that have done this. But Denver seems to have like differences that make this a little more logistically challenging than other places have had, whether it's because it's larger or we have such diverse types of neighborhoods throughout the city. Those are some of the conversations we're having. Different layouts. Like, for example, we have like some single family properties that are still the old cul-de-sac, type layout. So what does that do for these type of conditions when you're trying to put 4 to 9 units on something like that that doesn't have alley access, those type of things. So there's definitely some challenges there, but it's an interesting project and it'll just be drawn out, like Melissa said, like a lot longer than they originally anticipated.
Nice. So Melissa, you had your hand up first.
I was just going to add on to that, Rod. So some of what they are kind of nodding to is what is in the near Northwest area plan, right? If our plan did have that preservation bonus, did have that affordability bonus, and that's kind of where they are looking for the phase one at least.
Okay.
So there is a kind of a nod to the neighborhood plans that do include that, and ours is not unique.
Okay. And all right. Well,
Matthew?
Matthew, sorry, you had your hand up next.
Well, yeah, it's just trying to remember. We had a conversation a while back about an initiative to remove the requirement for the second egress stairway.
I don't remember.
Single stair.
Yeah, is that something that's still ongoing, or is that part of this
Yes.
discussion?
No.
Or
Not
Yes,
part
it's
of
ongoing.
this.
No, it's not part of this.
okay.
Two different things.
Was that for larger high rises and such?
No,
Oh, it's for any.
it's for small lots. So this would be
Smaller, under 3 stories or under, and the occupancies are pretty sparse. I mean, it's not. I forget. Like, it's not a tremendous amount. I think it's 12. I think 12 units or something like that.
So
It
the
was
project's
pretty
unrelated
small.
to this.
Pretty small 3-story buildings.
No, but I mean the project is unrelated to this, but
No, it's
obviously
not. It's not part of this though.
right. But I mean, whatever decisions they make there could impact whatever gets built in the future, regardless.
Well, that's the whole thing that it kind of just boggles my mind sitting in this thing. Like, the stuff that this unlocking housing choices touches is pretty comprehensive. I mean, zoning code and, it would even impact stuff we've put into the CO7 and CO8 because we've limited 3,000 square foot footprints to new development in Sunnyside. And, if you're going to build 9 units, you're not going to do it in 3,000 square feet. And this would allow larger building footprints, as part of the discussion that we're talking about. So there would be, I mean, it's not stuff that can't be overcome, but there would be significant changes to all sorts of stuff in the zoning code.
So, Rod, can you share, or Rod or Melissa, because you kind of touched on it a little bit, in terms of phase one and phase two, or phase one and all other phases, what kind of, you said, they're looking at the maybe the gains, or items from NPI that they could, more readily deploy in terms of preservation and incentives for affordability. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what they're trying to do in phase one?
It's too early for that,
Okay,
right?
okay, okay, okay.
It's way too
Okay,
early for
we're
that.
not
They
even there
are,
yet. Okay.
no.
All right. That's
Yeah,
fair.
they don't have any specifics, and I'm not sure
Okay.
how much we're supposed to be actually sharing out there because
Well,
this is supposed to be sort of
I'm
a,
listening to this and I could tell you we've learned nothing. You're safe.
yeah.
You're safe.
It's
Excellent.
I think they basically broke the two halves, Melissa. I don't think it's giving her anything. It's like the first part is like they're going to be developing like what they want to focus on. In the second
Okay.
half, they're going to really be like what is it going to be? Like they're going to
It's
have to figure out all the dirty details that second half.
So I do have to ask Rod, I don't know if, you just talked about the fact that it's going to be so overarching and touch so many areas and impact all of these. Like my first thought is, how we put 7 years into our design, conservation overlay that applies to one and two. When these things can become three and four, they're gone, right? I mean, all of a sudden, those won't even apply anymore. There won't,
Well, my guess is that part of this thing will actually be developing the overall scope of it, like because
or the
they're,
form. Like, I guess, the question would be the form, because a lot of the work on the conservation had to do with, the form. So I'm wondering when they come across areas knowing that people were upset about the form, that when they kind of look at forms of these new, allowable, structures, that they kind of carry over some of the form pieces that people were tied to, whether it's the pitched roofs or the patios, the front porches. I didn't know whether again, it sounds too early for any of these conversations, but that's definitely the one that I'm concerned with because I'm just like 7 years
yeah. Well,
gone.
time marches on and progress and change and all of those things. I mean, none of our stuff is perfect as it sits, so it's always good to sort of look at it and rethink it for the current, you know, community
Well, and
needs.
I think that there'll be a lot of communication on context, right? Um, Although there are certainly people on the committee that would love to paint with a broad brush, I do think it would be unwise, and I think that council will not support things that are not context specific, right?
Right,
What works in Kevin Flynn's district with
right.
cul-de-sacs and things like that, and no alleys may not be appropriate, for Cheeseman Park or whatever, and vice versa.
Yep.
So
Right.
I think that there will be this kind of extended timeline will give a chance to find nuance, hopefully,
Okay.
and also to kind of find flaws. They'll have that first phase in theory, which is kind of the incentivized phase. What can we do to help you build these things?
Build.
We'll
Okay.
learn from that and we'll incorporate some of our learning into phase two.
Got it. All right.
And yeah,
Thank
and
you.
that's the whole breadth of the conversation has been that way. Some people want to get into the very specifics of it,
I
and then other
cannot.
people are like, why don't we just open it up for everything and everybody can build like 4 to 9 units on every lot in the whole city and like why can't we do that? And so it's interesting seeing all the different perspective for sure.
All right. Anybody else have questions on the kind of the updates we just shared?
Now, I do want to clarify that single stair is 4 to 5 stories, not
Okay.
three.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah, they've been kind of toying with how high they want it to go. There is even desire among some to go even higher, but I think we're going to top out at 5 here. So I linked to when it was a committee
Okay.
yesterday. There's PowerPoint that you can download and browse through.
I will say, like I went to Rome years ago, and Nicole and I stayed in a place that was like 5 stories, and that's a life choice if you're living in a place where it's 5 stories to go up and down every day. It's seriously like a lot more. Like you just don't think about it. You're like, wow. Like you don't want to leave your car keys or something down in your car or whatever. You have to run back downstairs.
All right. Okay. Well, let me see. There's a couple things in chat. Want to make sure there wasn't anything in here we're missing. Single stair. Okay, thank you. Melissa shared the single stair piece of it. I've already downloaded the postcard that we'll share. All right, if we have nothing else, we can give you 9 minutes back today.
Hey, thanks. I want to just thank everybody for showing up. This is great seeing like the larger group start to trickle back in after we whittled down to like, I don't know, for a while there.
Three.
Yeah, it was like three of us for
Rod, Melissa, and I.
yeah. So I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate the outreach for volunteering for some of this stuff. I know Troopy's excited.
Thank you,
And
Austin.
thank you very
Welcome.
much. Yeah. So
Thank you,
and
everyone.
Melissa, thank you again for being here and filling us in and giving us the info.
Awesome
you,
guys,
guys.
everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone,
thank you so
hey,
much.
hopefully some of you guys will come to the open house and maybe we'll get to see
Yeah.
some of you guys there. And otherwise, have a great Thanksgiving and we will check in next month.
See you next
Thank you
month.
guys
Bye.
for
Yeah.
everything.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.